Hi there, and welcome back to another Real Talk with Dr. Jim Sharps. It's a pleasure to have you back with us. For those of you that know and are regular viewers of this channel and these series of videos, we really aim to go through and look at topics that are front of mind in society from a health perspective and really break it down from the viewpoint of original medicine, trying to demystify, remove some of the fog around natural or alternative therapies and really give you real facts in terms of how you can approach it and how your body is reacting to different stimuli. So we have a series, we try and cover lots of different topics. If you do want to request a topic for us to cover, please leave a comment in the chat. We do review it, and we do choose and select our content strategy based on the feedback that we have. But what we wanted to cover today based on some feedback was we are in the festive season. Christmas or whatever your festive plans are, whether you celebrate it or not, is around the corner. And it's a time of year generally where food is consumed in perhaps elevated levels to normal parts of the year. So we wanted to just have a quick video, again, from the perspective of original medicine, things to think about and what you can do if at this time of the season your elevated consumption levels have led to certain consequences that are not so desirable. So we'll cover that, and we'll look at how can you really lose that happy holiday weight in healthy ways and constructive ways. So Dr. Jim, thanks for being with us again. Appreciate your time as always. We'll kick off the conversation today in terms of what's the best lifestyle change you can make to lose weight. We'll go into fad diets, crash diets, intermittent fasting, but from your perspective, what's the best lifestyle change you can make to lose weight?
Probably the single best and the easiest is getting your hydration right, the amount of water you drink. A lot of people don't appreciate how much water is required for digestive efficiency. You need the water. The liver needs three things in order to operate properly. It needs the right amount of minerals, obviously. It needs oxygen, and it needs water. If any of those are missing, there's a problem. The oxygen isn't as difficult because you have to breathe, but water is kind of voluntary. So the single biggest thing is to get your hydration right. And what I mean by that, I don't mean chug-a-lugging a whole bunch of water at one time. Drinking it throughout the day in a systematic basis gives your whole metabolic system that constant fuel to keep it operating at its highest efficiency. And that's probably the least expensive and probably one of the least regarded of some very important things that aid metabolic and digestive efficiency.
It's interesting. It's something as simple as water, and it's often the simple things that are overlooked. Now, if you mentioned digestive efficiency. If you are dehydrated, again, we always try in these series to make original health easy to understand at a practical level. If you are dehydrated, what are some of the signs in that digestive efficiency that, hey, actually, maybe I should start to consider my water consumption and my water intake in the ways you've described?
You know, that's a really good question. And one of the obvious ones is you feel real thirsty while you're eating. You don't have enough water in the body. And so you're chug-a-lugging a lot of water. Remember, if you listen to the whole statement, I said you don't want to be chug-a-lugging all at one time. And the least time that you want to be drinking a whole lot of water is when you're eating, because you don't want to dilute the digestive juices. You want to have enough water in there before digestion started, enough during digestion, and then enough after digestion. That's why I said you don't want to chug-a-lug. What I mean by that is you don't want to drink high amounts at any particular time. You want to spread it out during the day. So your question is so powerful because it helps to clarify that earlier point that I wanted to make. So one of the signs that you're dehydrated is you start gagging and I need water, and you grabbing the water and you're drinking so much water. And then the biggest problem that what exacerbates it, for some reason, people think that fluids need to be cold to be drunk. And that's the absolutely worst time to be drinking a cold fluid. Even when you go to the restaurant, you know, they look at me like I lost my mind. I ask for a cup of hot water with lemon, even in the summertime. And now, of course, I let it cool off a little bit, but what they give you automatically is a glass of cold water. And what happens when you drink anything cold, whether it's water or soda or whatever your favorite beverage is, orange juice, whatever it is, it suspends digestion. The body is 98 degrees. The body has to stop so that you don't go into hypertrophy. Cold. You go into a cold shock, and so it has to suspend digestion sometimes for hours to warm up that fluid, and so you're delaying digestion while compromising the functional integrity of the liver and the kidneys that go into spasm when that cold liquid is there. So you want everything to be working harmoniously. And so just with a little bit of thought, you realize, okay, if my body is warm and I throw this thing, if I took cold water and poured it on your head while you were comfortable you would go into a little bit of a mini shock. And that's what happens in the system. So the question that might come up, a follow-on question, so what do you do with that cold water? Do you not tip the waiter or waitress? Do you say, you fool, why do you give me this cold water? No, you cook it in your mouth. You put it in your mouth. You don't have to chug-a-lug it again. You warm it up in the mouth and swallow it. And, you know, enough so that you're comfortable. And so just with a little bit of common sense and the application of those, again, as you said, the original laws in an appropriate manner, based on what your particular situation is, you can work through understanding the context in which these situations occur.
Yeah, that's very clear. And I think it's good to kind of clarify those things. When we talk about original medicine, and there are many, we'll talk about fads and kind of crashes and you know, very popular diets. But when talking from the perspective of original medicine, we're talking about actually very basic, seemingly basic and simple things. But when you understand the anatomy and physiology of the body, you understand that they're immensely powerful. And a seemingly simple change can really have a significant benefit on your health and your vitality, as you like to say, Dr. Jim. So thank you for clarifying that. In terms of looking at diets and crash diets, obviously this is a time of year when, you know, one of the laws when we talk about temperance
Yes.
probably is put on mute for a few weeks. And inevitably we hit January and the volume comes back twice as loud. A lot of people really look at crash diets and they look at, okay, this is a popular diet. I'm just going to go on this. I'm not going to eat for 6 months. I'm just going to juice. I'm going to do these all manner of extreme things. I'm going to go keto. I've heard of only meat diets. Are crash diets good for getting back into shape? Please give us the ultimate Dr. Jim word on this.
And the answer is a resounding no, generally speaking. I say that, but and one of the things you always hear me say, it's always based on individual requirements and capacities. So you want to look at what your individual situation is. You want to look at what your objectives are, what your goals are, and what your particular situation is. But generally speaking, crash diets, exactly as it infers, they cause you to crash. And if you're out in a 747 jet and you're up there and you're high, you don't want to come down crashing. You want to come down easily and with a nice smooth landing. Now, sometimes with turbulence, this, that, and the other thing, if you have a lot of gas and belching, the analogy, you might want to take some critical short-term action. But long-term crashes causes problems. So while you might be able to handle it, and then another thing I'd like to warn is, just because you can do it and get away with it, that doesn't mean it's good for you. You can play Russian roulette and you keep spinning the barrel and you might miss. It might misfire a few times, or you might miss, but pretty soon it will catch up with you. So you need to put into consideration things like your age, your level of health, what your particular health goals are, and then rationally put together something that makes sense for you. So don't necessarily get caught up with all of these, with all the advertising for all these fad things. Look at it and see if it makes sense for you, and take those portions of it that are in harmony with what your situation is, and avoid those things that are not in your best interest.
That's very clear. And I think how I've always, engaging with you more, Dr. Jim, really re-emphasized that point is when you do crash diets, when you hit inevitably ground level, that bounces back to those same behaviors because it wasn't sustainable how you got there. You know, you can cut all the power and dive down to whatever weight or whatever shape you want to be in. But the real question is that sustainable? And a lot of people that I know, unfortunately, they yo-yo. You know, they go on their crash or their fad, they get down to where they want to be, but the choices they made to get there are not sustainable, and they rebound sometimes even worse than they were before. And all of the emotional collateral damage that comes with that, and then they just constantly from one fad to the next. So that kind of brings us nicely on to the next question that we had here. Based with that in mind and what you said and the whole yo-yoing principle, are fad diets worth your time and money? Because there's a lot that, you know, schemes that you sign up to. I won't mention any names, but, you know, there are many that I'm sure our viewers are aware of, where you have to, you know, pay to be part of programs. From your perspective, Dr. Jim, again, give us the real talk, Dr. Jim answer. You know, are they worth your time and money? And again, individual capacities and requirements allowed for. What's your feeling on whether somebody should be really concertedly looking at fad diets as part of their kind of lifestyle and nutrition choices?
Yeah, and that's a very powerful question. And the problem with fad diets is, you know, they do work for some people, but you know, something works. Everything works for somebody. That's why they came up with it. And what they usually do is they hype and they show you those people that it worked for. They don't show you all of the collateral damage of a lot of those people that it doesn't work for. So from my standpoint, what you want to do is you want to have a very thoughtful, rational approach to diet to begin with. And it sounds kind of cliche, and you kind of noted that. You talk about individual requirements, capacities, but the fact of the matter is, the younger you are and the better your health, the more liberties you can take. Does that mean you should take those liberties? No, but you can. That's the reality of it. So you don't want to make a hard and fast rule, but you want to encourage people to use a rational approach to what they're doing with diet. See, one of the things that people don't really consider is that the body, life is a matter of rhythm and routine. You know, the sun doesn't come out all different hours. It comes up the same time. It is cyclical and it changes. So when you go from summer to winter, the sun comes up at a different time, but it doesn't happen all of a sudden. If it happened all of a sudden, that would be a crash situation. And to make the analogy with the diet, our body works in a rhythmic fashion, so you don't want it to crash. If you're going to do some things, you want to work into it over a period of time. Give your body an opportunity to adapt to the situation. And that's what happens when you do these crash diets. Why do they call it a crash diet? The crashing is happening to your internal organs. They are used to a certain process over a certain period of time. Then all of a sudden it gets overwhelmed. And so what's crashing? Is it your adrenals? Is it your thyroid? Is it your liver, your kidneys? And what happens is, depending upon what particular organ is crashed upon with these diets, then you have all of these named diseases that comes as a result of it. And what the cause is the crash diet. They never call it that. They basically say this failure, that failure, this other failure, and then you're looking for all kinds of things, Prilosec and a whole bunch of other things to kind of satisfy all of those earthquakes and volcanoes that occur from those fad diets. Now, there are things that you can do to help yourself to mitigate the damage, but understanding the cyclical, this rhythmic, this rhythm and routine kind of thing, and you know, we talked about it all the time. Information is power. You know, at least some people aren't even informed of these things, and at least you can consider these things. And then if you want to take a rational approach, at least you can kind of work within the parameters of that to the best of your ability to minimize the damage, and then to have the best kind of recovery when you run into these mini crashes.
That's clear. And we'll talk, as always, about what you would recommend as an approach to dieting and making kind of nutrition and lifestyles positively to kind of get to an ideal weight at your individual level. But just very quickly, it's something that is very popular, so I wanted to get your word on this. Intermittent fasting is something that a lot of people, certainly it's very well known in my generation. It's something I've done. So what's your thoughts on intermittent fasting, and how, if you are going to integrate that into your nutrition and lifestyle choices, how are some kind of positive and healthy ways that you can do that?
Yeah, that's a powerful question, and I'm a big fan of intermittent fasting. First of all, let's take away the boogeyman in the room. Everybody fasts. Very few people are grazers eating all day long. So everybody fasts. Now, the period might be shorter. I mean, you're eating every 2 hours, but you're fasting for those 2 hours. So what you want to do with intermittent fasting is you want to get on a good tempo that's going to give your body sufficient rest to be able to recover from those dietary considerations, to get back into metabolic balance to the best of your ability. So I'm a big fan of intermittent fasting. So let's look at a couple of examples of easy ways of doing intermittent fasting. One is what you want to do is you want to have that last meal as early in the evening as possible, as it makes sense based on your lifestyle and practical circumstances. So you don't want to be eating 10, 11 o'clock at night. So the closer you have your last meal, as a matter of fact, to 2 to 3 p.m., the better off you are. So if you have your last meal 3 or 4 o'clock, that's not practical for everybody, but you can end at that time, and then you don't eat again until the following morning. Actually, you'll actually be hungry. Why? Because you gave your body an opportunity to eat the food, digest the food, assimilate it, and it's saying, I'm ready. Whereas if you're eating your last meal 8, 9, 10 o'clock, and it's a heavy meal, and you're outside of the normal circadian rhythms, which is after 6 p.m., your body wants to assimilate food, not digest food. So you're up all night, you're not getting good rest, you're not getting good recovery, and you're not hungry in the morning, and then you need that 2 cups of coffee to get yourself alert because you beat yourself up all night trying to survive from that diet. So that intermittent fasting gives you the ability to thoughtfully give yourself the appropriate amount of period of time before you have your next meal. So sometimes you eat late. If you're out at a party or something like that, they're not serving till 7, 8 o'clock, but then you don't want to eat your next meal at 8 o'clock. Maybe you want to just have water or some juice or something like that, and not have your next meal until lunch. That's intermittent fasting. If you can expand that normal period of the 4 to 6 hours between meals, and most people do. Most people at night are not eating, so they're getting at least 12 hours. So if you can extend that out to 18 hours, and you do that over a period of time, either preparing for the holidays or even during the holidays, realizing this, you can go through intermittent fasting while you're getting ready to do your semi-binge eating. So at least you've given your body an opportunity to survive and to handle the diet. Now, if you can, and if you have certain health issues, understanding those circadian rhythms we talked about, and if I can go over them very quickly, from 4 a.m. to 12 noon is the elimination process. So elimination, water. So you want to be a more high water content diet. That's why fruit and juices and things like that make sense. That supports that cycle that you're in for elimination. On the other hand, from 12 to 8 is the digestive period. So that's the time where you want to have all of your foods done. And then from that 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. is that assimilation period. So the more opportunity you give yourself to fit into those cycles, the better off you're going to be from a metabolic, from a weight management, from a digestive, from a mental, emotional, all of those standpoints, understanding and managing your meals within that process. So how does intermittent fasting fit in other ways? Some people, binge fasting does not make sense. So I put on 10 pounds. So to fast straight for 10 days, it might be too dramatic. So let's say that you need to lose that 10 pounds. You got to get back into your suit. You got to get back to work. You don't do it all at one time. You can do it in a series of those 18-hour fasts, or instead of doing a straight 10-day fast, based on, again, your requirements and capacity, you fast for 3 days, you eat again intelligently, and then fast another 3 days. So you get that 10 days period in, not all at one time, but over 3 and 3 or 3 and 6, depending upon requirements. You get those 10 days in and give their body that chance to catch up, to recover in a very thoughtful and rational way. So I'm a huge fan of fasting, but it needs to be done in an intelligent way, again, in a rational way. Again, I'm going to keep saying it because, see, the thing is, you have to honor people as individuals. It's based on people's individual requirements and capacities. We're not all the same. We're not all the same height and weight, metabolic quotient. Just like we have different IQs, we have different metabolic quotients, different digestive quotients, different things, and you want to honor that. So working sometimes with somebody who is equipped and qualified in original medicine, they can help you to apply these rules, these laws, in a very rational, individual way for individual happiness, and using those laws not as a club over the head, but as a way of empowering you to meet your goals in a very thoughtful, individual way. No fads, no crashes, but applying these laws of health in a very rational, thoughtful way, based, again, on your individual requirements and capacities. And that's what will give you the health, the vitality, and the longevity, because it'll catch up with you. You can't just keep going to the bank and taking out all this money without putting some reserves in there. Consequently, using that same analogy, if you know you're going to be out going to a few parties over the holidays, why don't you build up those reserves, build up that bank account, so that when you go through this process, you're not in the serious debt after the holidays. So most people aren't monks. They're not going to be sitting around cross-legged singing hymns. But you can manage, lifestyle factors, parties, holidays in a very thoughtful way if you just take the time to understand, again, what your goals are. If your goal is to be happy and healthy, then you can manage that through the holidays without being a pariah where people see you coming and then run the other way. You can laugh and joke and have fun, eat a little bit more than you usually do, or a little bit different than you normally eat, eating a little bit heavier foods, but doing it in a way that you're minimizing the damage and giving yourself the best opportunity to meet your long terms, both your short term and your long term health goals and objectives.
That's very clear. And just kind of a final question as we close, Dr. Jim. You've mentioned applying the 8 laws of health that we've spoken about many times on this channel. How would you approach, or is there a model? This is a very loaded question. Is there a model that can really help apply everything that we've covered in this call that you've outlined for us in a very practical sense, in a very accessible sense, in a very day-to-day, what do I need to do? Can I have some good guides and in terms of what choices I need to be making, where do I need to go? Is there a model that could really bring this all together in a very practical sense?
Well, the model is, again, individual, and the model is basically understanding, information is power. Understand what those laws are. You can't be expected to abide by laws that you don't know exist. But in understanding that you need the right amount of air and water and sunlight, nutrition and exercise, and the temperance, rest, trust in divine power, first understanding what those are, and then basically majoring on those that are easier for you, and those where you have challenges, try to develop something that works for you. So to answer your question directly, there is a model. There are certain guidelines, if you will. We talked about the circadian cycles. We talked about the importance of water, air. You can stick your face out the window for 10 minutes. You don't have to be cooped up inside all day. And even though the weather is bad, you can stand outside and take a few good deep breaths of air, so you can get your air, your water. You're not going to have sun all the time. So you understanding that, you might want to make sure that your vitamin D is appropriate. So you might need supplementation. You know that eating is going to be difficult. So you might want to do things like add maybe some ginger tea or some mint tea or some digestive enzymes to help you through that nutrition part of the program. Rest. You need 6 to 8 hours of sleep, and understanding that every hour before midnight is worth 2 hours after midnight, to the extent that that's practical. Don't force yourself to stay up. And if you feel tired, because your body will tell you, I'm tired, you don't have to force yourself to stay up and look at TV. Go to sleep earlier. So, just using these laws in a rational manner is the model. That is the vehicle you're driving, and to use it in a very thoughtful and an appropriate way. We know the law of temperance says you avoid those things that are harmful, and you do those things that are good in moderation. Now, if you're going to do something harmful, my take is you don't go into a battle without a shield and a helmet. So do whatever you can to minimize the damage. So you put yourself in a position, if you're going to jump off of one-story floor, you have to do it. At least put some good sneakers on. Don't jump out there barefooted. If you're going to go into battle, don't go ripping off your chest, going out there bare chest. Put a shield on. So that's why I said the digestive enzyme, just thoughtfully trying to do things to model, to use your word back, model those 8 laws of health in a way that will take you through whatever issues you're going through, whatever parties or fun or family get-togethers, and all of those things in a very thoughtful, rational way. One of the things you hear me talk about is RBTI a lot of times, which is the mathematical formula for perfect health. As a matter of fact, that's another thing that you can use to kind of see how far off you are and to kind of pull yourself back. But that formula, even though it's a mathematical formula, the first part of that formula is CS. It's common sense. So don't get locked in. Don't let the laws be your enemy. Let them be your friend, and use common sense and pursue this in a very balanced approach. And one of my favorite expressions from the Bible is, some of these things, to go back to one of the things you said earlier, takes prayer and fasting to get through. So you do that fasting, you do that prayer, and one of my favorite expressions is one of my favorite verses in the Bible is 1 Corinthians 10:31. Whether you eat or drink, whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Understand that your body is a temple. It's not a garbage processing unit. So there are things out there that you can put them up on your wall, put them up on your mirror to remind yourself. So those are kind of things that you kind of want to model put together something that fits for you to help you to stay in harmony with those laws and health to the best of your ability while you're going through things. You don't, some things you don't have control over. You are more reacting to rather than setting the schedules and this. So, but you can set yourself up to be in the best position to react to a broad spectrum of things in a way that is in harmony with your spiritual, mental, and physical goals and objectives.
Dr. Jim, it's been a pleasure as always. Thank you for giving us some tips of how to survive the festive season, the holiday season. So really appreciate those insights that you're sharing with us. If you do want more information on RBTI, please do check out our website. There's much more information there. You can find all of the links in our video description. If you do have comments for anything that we've covered today, let us know how you got on in your holiday season of indulgence or semi-indulgence, depending on how temperate you are. We'd love to hear about that. And if you do want to us to cover any other topics, please do leave us a comment. But until next time, thank you so much. Bye for now. Have a great holiday season, and we'll see you on the other side. Bye for now.
Happy holidays to all.